Hello and welcome to the CDO Magazine interview series. I am Michael Fillios, founder and CEO of IT Ally and a CDO editorial board member. And we are partnering with CDO Magazine, MIT CDO IQ, and the International Society of Chief Data Officers in a series of interviews. Today, I have the pleasure of speaking with Brad Burke, Chief Engineering and Data Officer at American Family Insurance. Brad, welcome to the show.
Great. That's great to be here. Thank you for having me.
All right, let's dive in, Brad. I know that you've got a pretty extensive background here that we're going to learn more about today in data science and analytics in particularly. Tell us a little bit more about your motivation to pursue these fields and what is it in your background that moved you in this direction?
Yeah, 100%. For a good portion of my career, I've been involved in marketing tech startups. So before I came to American Family and they purchased my company, I had been doing those types of startups. And probably around, I would say 2008 to 2010 is really when the big data revolution was getting underway. So Hadoop and all these things were coming online, and you were able to unlock masses and masses of data. And when you do that, we had been using something called analytics, but we really needed to up the game so that we could sort of start really sampling against these petabytes of data that we were getting. So more and more machine learning and data science became a big part of that. That then migrated to the hyperscale clouds. You could do even more at scale, but it really was a necessity is where we came to it. So I started hiring data scientists to start coming on board and really started appreciating what data science could do for us so that we could better understand these massive data sets.
So going from MarTech to insurance, that must have been a little bit of a leap for you.
Well, it's really interesting because I remember the moment which I heard that Network Insights, my previous company, was being bought by AmFam. It's like, oh my gosh. But then as I got involved with insurance, I really started understanding they've been using data science to understand risk for, at least in AmFam's place, 95 years. So it turns out if you have the kind of interests I do, it turns out to be a really interesting place to be. And there's a lot of interesting challenges, even when you start thinking about what's going on with environmental change and weather and things like that, or connected home or connected cars. It actually starts to become a really interesting field. So I'm going to dispel that rumor.
I hadn't thought about it that way, but I like that intersection for sure. Yeah. So you mentioned Network Insights being purchased by AmFam. So I'm serving as the CTO of that company. You said that they used world-class data and analytics to optimize marketing decisions. Can you tell us a little bit more about how data was gathered and analyzed to achieve that?
100%. And so, we have to turn the clock back. I know we're now at the beginning of Web 3, but this was the beginning of Web 2 when basically the web became, or the internet, became more social. So people were posting a lot of unstructured content, either through blogs, forums, or the social internet. And brands were really trying to understand the conversations that were happening online. With any of these things, any of these MarTech startups I've done over the years, you have to start with respecting the consumer. So we always worked with the various platforms to understand what we could and couldn't do with the data. But once we got through that part of it, it was ingesting hundreds of millions of conversations a day, and then putting a set of classifiers in place so that you could understand the emotion, the sentiment, not just sentiment, but we had like 40 different emotions that we would look through a lens at and then understand what people are talking about. And rather than trying to count the number of brand mentions, really give people a general understanding of what is being talked about across the entire social web. So it became a set of tools people could really do to understand from a recall perspective, rather than just what are people specifically saying about this one thing? So it seemed to really resonate. And, from a sort of more of a technology data, perspective is really understanding how to scale a massive data pipeline, how to collect billions of updates to hundreds of millions of records a day and organize all that information in a real-time sense. And when there's that sort of analytics pipeline, collect all the information, organize the information at massive scale, that's kind of the primary use case these days, right? For almost everything we do.
Yeah, true. And I'm wondering, just this is a bit off script, but I'm wondering back then, was data privacy, as in the forefront as it is today?
It's interesting because it wasn't really thought that way. And it's hard to believe like that naive world that we live in. But I have, as I said, I've done marketing startups for so long. You really have to think through the lens of everything you're about to do is if this were to be published on the front page of a newspaper, would I feel proud of what I'm doing? And so there were things that where people were collecting information that were probably not the most ideal way, but not illegal back in the day, but you wouldn't do it. And if you want to be a company that's respected and taken seriously, and it gets to maybe one of the questions we'll hear later, but I really truly believe that data is a gift, and it's a gift that that give you, and you got to respect that gift, no matter what way in which you're using that data.
I like that. No, that's a good phrase to take away from this already as a soundbite, Brad. So thanks very much.
I'm here for it.
Cool. Well, listen, now I need you to be here for me again, because part of my focus on the board and just in general every day, what we do here is working with small and mid-sized businesses for them to get the most value from their tech investments. And when it comes to the use of data and analytics at a small, medium-sized business, there's a different challenge that they have given perhaps the investment or resources or expertise. So what would you say to leadership in terms of being able to introduce these concepts to an SMB so that they can look at this and get the benefits from these wonderful technologies?
100%. I actually think this is the time for small and medium business companies with the technologies that are in front of you. It's amazing what a 1-person or 4-person team who has a general understanding of what they want to do and what value they want to create can do with some of these cloud technologies. And pick your cloud. I'm not going to sell a particular one, but it's amazingly transformative. But this is the same thing I would tell any startup, whether it's small, medium business company has been around for a long time or a startup, is understand what your customer wants first. Be customer centric, whether that's someone internally within your company or your customer. What kind of product are you trying to get in front of them? Think of it more holistically rather than just data. What is the entire experience you're trying to put around it? Data is a big piece of it. And then work backwards into what you want to build. Rather than what I've seen from a lot of people will do is like, oh my gosh, I have this amazing data set. Let's figure out how to make something cool from it. And it really should be the other way around. Is just as much as applications should be customer centric, data should be as well. So what does your business leader really want out of the information? What do they want to see every day? Or what do your consumers want? And then back into it. And then, just go and take some online classes. They're amazing. You might be surprised what you can learn. Even someone like me, who's more of a Java person, learned Python in probably about 2 weeks and was pretty proficient with it. So, I think it's amazing what you can do if you just dive in and try with it. And then, just understand the security posture. Most of the clouds are secure out of the box these days, but that's a very important thing. So have a good security partner with you along the way. But I think you'd be surprised if you guys really dig in that what you could do.
I think that's some good advice. And look, you brought up something that's extremely important, which is, focusing on the customer or taking an outside in approach. And certainly we believe passionately about that, not just doing it for technology's sake, right? So that's
fun, but I do that at home.
This is true. Those are R&D projects or side hustles or whatever you want to call it. So awesome. Well, you coined another phrase on your LinkedIn profile that talks about zipping through the intersection of data science, data engineering, software engineering, and the cloud. So that's more than a hat trick there. I don't even know what you call that, but that's 4 components. So tell us a little bit more about this intersection and how each of these components have worked together to advance data science.
No, 100%. I am actually a software engineer by trade. And it's interesting because I don't know that I really can call myself that anymore, but I do write code at home. But it's interesting how I think data engineering became like software engineering with the capabilities we got with the cloud. So we're able to be much more iterative. It was back in the day when I was doing SAP software development in the 90s, we had $1 million warehouse and you couldn't make a mistake. If you loaded a table incorrectly, you were stuck with that and you could only had batch windows for the rest of your life to fix those tables. But now with the technologies we have, we can be much more iterative with data. So, and the development capabilities look a lot more like software engineering. And so that, this has brought my passion to work in both these areas, both software and data engineering. But if you've got to have both of those to activate data science. So data science, if it sits in a lab, you're investing in it, takes 6 to 10 months for you to design something, and then it takes 6 to 10 months for you to move it into a business system, forget it. That it's just not going to happen. So many millions and millions of dollars are put into research without a single person asking about what the experience of that science should be. So I really think you actually need to have software engineers, data engineers, and data scientists working together in concert to actually create a product. And whether that's a prediction that's in one of your descriptive analytic reports, so it's just, giving you a report, or it's a prediction that's deciding, whether someone's, what kind of experience someone's going to get online. Like, those all need to be wired up. They all need to be treated like software. So you need to bring all these domains together. Now, I have found trying to push software engineering and data engineering domains on top of scientists isn't a great idea. But what I have found is you can bring the scientists towards these other domains and that they can get their work done faster. And I've also found the next generation scientists tend to look a little bit more like data engineers and software engineers these days than maybe they traditionally did in the past. So that's kind of what that intersection means for me. My title, Chief Engineering and Data Officer, is actually a reflection of that desire to bring those things together, because we have all three domains inside the team.
Really appreciate, Brad, you taking some time for joining us today. And for the audience to learn more about CDO Magazine or to view more interviews, please visit cdomagazine.tech. Thank you very much.
Yep. Thank you for having me.